with the paper here, she doesn't raise it.
I'd like to call to order our meeting tonight. We're going to start off with our invocation.
Let us pray. O wise and everlasting Father, we come at this morning hour of the evening. Heavenly Father, we pray that you will be in our midst and in our decision making this evening. And Heavenly Father, we thank you for the liquid sunshine that thou hast blessed us with today. These and other blessings we ask in Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Would we stand for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight for our meeting. It is March the 2nd, and this time I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for February 5th, 12th, and 20th of 2018.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chairman votes yes also. Are there any reports from the county officials?
Not at this time.
No reports at this time.
No reports.
No reports.
All right, thank you. At this time, we have a few public presentations that we're going to recognize tonight. Ms. Jacqueline Reinhardt for a presentation on littering on roadways in Saluda County.
Good evening. Thank you for including me on your agenda. It's kind of coincidental because I see that we are a trending topic with the litter in Saluda. So I see we made the news 4 nights ago on WIS TV, and this buildup of trash and the discontent that we feel seems to be growing. Saluda is becoming the town best known for litter and lack of inspiration. And I don't know any of you or many of you personally, so allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jacqueline Reinhardt, and I've returned to Saluda to the home of my grandparents and to oversee their land and the house that I subsequently built here. While it's understood by me that Saluda is a small town of modest means, I've come here all my life, it was also always a clean town. But not anymore, for reasons that must go beyond the lack of money, given that the roads and the bridges department have heretofore kept them clean. How are they not clean now? Has the budget or the maintenance been changed? Or has the litter increased? Moreover, why haven't we as a community used this as an opportunity to brand and come together as a community? I believe that this lack of vision, by not telling Saluda what it should look like, is what is increasing the litter. Saluda County and its lack of response to this growing cancer is admitting and allowing a zeitgeist of lackadaisical apathy to take hold because the litter is growing. And I've always believed that it's been the benefit of being in a small town that you could respond quickly to its constituents. Less red tape. We're here together. And yet, nobody is pro-litter. It's ugly, it's unnecessary, it causes accidents, and it ruins the natural beauty and impacts the economic development. Who wants to live and build here if they were to drive into town and see that? Cleanup creates a safer environment. The equivalent of what I saw in New York called the Quality of Life Patrol, where policemen were instructed to pay attention to areas that were littered, where there was trash, where the lights were broken, because they knew that crime was more likely to take place there. When a people start reacting to their environment with discord, unkempt, discarding and destroying property, that indicates that something often is going on in the community. Noticing the community, paying attention to the community's aesthetics, is paying attention to the people. I agree with Councilman Derek Jones that this trash, this litter, this garbage is an embarrassment. But it's not an embarrassment to the people who littered. It's an embarrassment to us. So those citizens represented here that believe that Saluda should be much more than an apathetic response. The town, this county, is in need of a vision, something that will help transform and ignite a response. The cost of roadside trash is $200 is the minimum in South Carolina for littering any amount less than 15 pounds. My request is that the council organize a group to identify and specific needs in areas. The woman that was on TV, for example, invite her. Then tailor the cleanup efforts to meet those needs. Local homeowners, landowners, farmers, the community organizations, invite them. And then you can have a solutions contest for $250, $100, $50. Give a gift for those organizations that provided a completed entry form with their photograph showing that they participated in the Saluda Spring Cleanup. There's a nationwide cleanup for the United States that takes place March 1st through the 31st of May. We could participate in that. The company can sponsor, such as the South Carolina Bottlers Association, or maybe Budweiser. I see enough Budweiser cans. Community Government Affairs Department, or possibly community grants could provide the seed money for those prizes. The people eligible include schools, nonprofit, youth groups, clubs, civic groups, everyone. Anybody could be eligible. As I said, it's March 1st through May 31st. It's Keep America Beautiful, the Great America campaign. It's nationwide. I think the goal of Saluda should make a regular litter cleanup and landscaping a part of what goes on, and you can either adopt a mile, as some communities do, or sponsor by a business. And let that business have their own signage that says this is the area that they clean, and they can then advertise their business. There are a lot of new businesses that would possibly like to do that. And for that mile of cleanup, would appreciate having some type of signage. Why not make this a community thing and say something to Saluda? Okay, these are my thoughts and suggestions. I now yield the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Reinhardt. We'll receive that information. At this time, I'd like to recognize Ms. Jennifer Warren for a presentation on animal control.
I'd like to thank y'all for letting me come in tonight, and I hope it's not a problem that I brought Miss Judy B to meet y'all. She is a puppy from a litter here in Saluda that I chose to keep her, and she will be trained as a therapy dog to work with the library and the schools with reading programs for kids. She's also going to go into the senior center, so this is good therapy for her too, to learn to sit and behave herself. She's working on it. I wrote a speech, which I had told him probably a dozen different times. I'm not a speech person. I can talk about dogs all day long, but I'll limit that to 7 minutes. We all know that there's a great need for animal control, and in the back here are some of the supporters for the rescue that I have started here. These pictures, these people have all come together to support taking in animals, feeding them, medicating them, transporting them. Their ages from 6 to 81 that I have come out to the house. These kids are out walking downtown instead of playing on Xbox. They were interacting with church members that were painting their building. They learn to take better care, more responsibility of their pets, but that can only happen if there's a place for them to go. And for there to be a place for them to go, there also has to be someone who can go and catch them. By reducing the stray population, it's not just a dog in the neighbor's yard. It's not just some dog you see on the sidewalk. These dogs, like Miss Judy B, can have a purpose to give back to our community. By reducing that population, You reduce the disease, the viruses that are spread. I have, since I opened the rescue, been hit with parvo 4 times. Her litter being one of them. I did lose one of her litter. These are all things that can be easily prevented, but lack of education on proper care is causing a lot of it. And so one of the things that Saluda needs to consider with their animal control program is to educate the adults and most especially the children to take better care, spay and neuter, please. I'd love for someday for all of my cages to be empty. Nothing's going to happen, but there are a lot of benefits to having an animal control program. It brings your community together. It makes it safer. It keeps the owned pets, the domestic pets, safer, livestock safer, and it's better all around for the animals and the humans. You have all of the support that you need. There are businesses that are donating their services, from vet techs to photographers to boarding and grooming, you name it. They've all said, we will help, we will support, we will do what we can do. I know that the issue has been brought up on the budget. Since January 1st to today, I personally have taken in 42 dogs from just inside the county of Saluda. That's not dogs that I have taken in from outside. That number would almost triple. If you count the ones that have come from Lawrence County, Union County, Spartanburg, Greenville, Greenwood, Newberry. I have spoken to all of those shelters. They have all offered their support, their guidance, anything that they can do to help get a shelter here in Saluda. Education, paperwork, whatever you all need, they're willing to support that. And if y'all get a chance, they've made some wonderful posters back there with some fantastic pictures of the dogs involved in school programs already, just through the rescue. And I'd like y'all to just consider, please. An animal control program is so desperately needed. Thank you.
I'm not the one that's 81 years old.
Yeah, that was not
Thank you for the 2 presentations we've had so far. When the third one is finished, I have some comments that I would like to make for all 3 groups, because all 3 of you have something in common tonight. So, anyway.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. At this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Linwood Livingston for a presentation on animal control leash law.
Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. My wife was scheduled to speak, but she's still a little emotionally distraught over our situation. I don't really have a formal presentation. Wish I'd have thought of the poster idea. That was pretty good. But I do want to tell you a story. February 12th, my wife was walking on our street with our 2 dogs on leashes when she was attacked by 3 dogs owned by a neighbor, and I use that term loosely. And unfortunately, this wasn't the first time she has been attacked. She was attacked back in October, and fortunately, the dogs were coming at her. She could see it. She was able to pick up rocks. She was able to yell. The owner, miraculously, happened to be somewhat close by. And so between all of this, the dogs were called off. On February 12th, it was a different story. She was, as I said, walking our 2 dogs on a leash just a few yards from our yard. 3 dogs, one of which was a pit bull, and 2 other dogs attacked from behind. No provocation, no warning, and it was a vicious attack. We have a 13-year-old rescue puppy that we saved many years ago. Been a sweet dog. I mean, a sweet dog. Very timid, very shy. Evidently, she had been abused. So, not certainly a threat. Maybe certain dogs find that attractive to attack. The bottom line was the 3 dogs attacked. The pit bull had her by the throat. The other 2 dogs had her by the hind legs, and they proceeded to rip her apart. The owner, my wife, is screaming for all she's worth. The owner, who is several hundred yards away, that's where the dogs reside, responded in the most lethargic, careless. Renee often says it was like he was walking across the parking lot to go to Walmart. So eventually he shows up. Of course, damage is continuing to be done. And eventually he's pulled off. And instead of apologizing, instead of doing the responsible thing, as a responsible dog owner or human being should do, he yells at my wife that she needs to calm down and that there's nothing wrong with the dog. Well, our little dog has gone through 2 surgeries. Stitches from just below the thorax all the way up to behind her ear. And the first, she was so mangled that stitches wouldn't hold, and they had to go back in and redo it. As a result of the medication, her liver is now in very bad shape. The bottom line on all this is, and I don't want to go into all the detail, and I know my time's very limited. Bottom line is, this individual has never once asked about the dog, offered to take any kind of action to help us. It's your dog, it's your problem. What I'm here tonight, and why I'm here, is that there needs to be something done with people. You know, when a person's a menace, you know, the state steps in, government steps in, and they take action. But what happens when dogs are a menace? And God help us when the dog and the owner are menaces. Now we're really in trouble. I understand that the current ordinance is $25, $50. You know, when you have a dog that is vicious, when you have a dog that attacks without warning, without provocation, the penalty should be greater. The responsibility, the level, the standard of care that they're held to should be higher. And so I'm just here tonight to ask you to please consider that in looking at county ordinances, and we live in a residential area. There are houses all around. My neighbors have grandchildren from 2 to 10. And when my wife steps in the front yard now, it's like Russian roulette. Have they let the dogs out? Because normally they're behind the fence. But occasionally he likes to let them run around. You know, dogs need exercise. So now we live in fear. We can't let our dogs out without worry. My wife can't worry. Every time we see a neighbor with their grandchildren in the yard now we're concerned. We try to warn everyone, tell everyone. So anyway, that's my story. I hope that you'll think about that as you move forward and think about what can be done to address this kind of problem. Thank you very much.
May I make some comments?
Yes.
Okay, we heard from 3 groups tonight, and I'm just going to start with the first one. I'm just going to go through, and I'm not necessarily speaking for the entire council, but I grew up here, and I don't remember there being as much of a litter problem when we didn't have litter laws as I seem to be seeing now. And the road that I live on is going to take it's one of the dirt roads, one of the back roads. It's going to take a cleanup because of people dumping. I hate litter. people who intentionally throw out trash or dump it somewhere, and I hear about 80% of litter is intentionally done, but the fact is that there are people who don't care how ugly they make their surroundings, and some are just plain mean. They take pleasure in uglifying an area. They just don't know any better, but the fact is it still happens. The county can partially address the problem of litter and illegal dumping. We had a litter control officer years ago. We don't have one now. I'd like to see us look at one. We need an animal control officer. I'd like to see, we're gonna have to do something as to how we're gonna do it, how quickly we can put it into place. That's something that we have to take up among ourselves, but I can assure you we're going to do the very best that we can. If it were just me as a private citizen here talking, I could tell you things that I would like to see done. But whenever it comes to county business and taxpayers' money, then I have to be objective and I have to look at what can we get done. And I do feel like there are things we can do. Palmetto Pride is they're the ones who put up the Adopt a Highway signs like you were speaking about, where organizations adopt a mile of the highway. I think that's a great idea. But you know, they're doing it on main highways. They're not doing it on the little pretty back roads that you and I like to travel down. So what do we do there? If you go into the Palmetto Pride website, they advocate a community effort, like you said. They advocate volunteers coming together to have a cleanup day. Like you said, we're in the middle of this Great American Cleanup, I think is what it's called. Those kinds of things need to be done. They really do. We do have volunteers that do. Now, what's the county going to do? Well, like I said, we need a litter control officer. We need someone who can monitor these things. We need a system in place where community service can be performed when someone has committed a misdemeanor or something, where they can work this off. But that's something we have to look into, because we are then dealing with, as a government entity, a liability. So we have to go through all the legalese, if you understand what I'm saying. Now, for animal control, I hate knowing that animals are treated like litter, something else to throw away, and it happens in this county a lot. It's happened everywhere I've ever lived. I'm an animal lover, and as a private citizen, I cannot be objective about animal care and health. But as a public official, the thing is, again, objectivity is what I have to offer, because we are dealing with taxpayer funding. So what can we do? I want a solution. I want an animal control officer. I want an animal control program. I want to see an organization like Full Circle be successful. And I'm telling you that right now, and no one else, I don't know who else agrees with me or not, but I'm telling you that I do believe that there is a place for an organization like this. But before the county can deal with it, and I know that Jennifer's already working on it and has been, certain criteria has to be met before there can really be any interaction. And I'll also tell you this, 2 other counties have offered to go into talks to partner with Saluda County, which is also very interesting. So we do have some things working on. We have been putting aside money for the past several years in order to hire an animal control officer, in order to purchase a pickup truck so that they can be rescued. So we're trying to get there. But as someone that I know very well likes to say, government is slow for a reason. But this is one of those times where I'm thinking, you know, maybe it's been as slow as it can be for as long as it can be. I want to see something done. I do, and I think the others agree. The commitment of these volunteers we have here tonight, your donors, I can't say enough good about them. I can't say enough about the big hearts that I'm seeing. I grew up with all kinds of animals. Raccoons, foxes, squirrels, crows, not to mention the dogs and the cats, and I don't think we ever bought one. They just showed up and we took care of them. That's my background. So just because I'm sitting up here doesn't mean that I don't care. I have 2 rescue animals at my house. I don't know where they'd be. They wouldn't be alive if it hadn't been for us picking them up. Now, leash law. That's going to go in with the animal control officer. Something needs to be done. I understand that there is going to be some legal action. It should be. It should be held accountable. And I wish you the best of luck. And I'm so sorry that happened to your dog Juju. And I hope that she recovers, and I believe that she will. But that's all I have to say. It's very emotional. I am sorry for that. But something is going to have to be done. Give us some time to try and work something out. But thank you all for being here and for what you have done to continue to bring this to our attention. And continue to bring it to our attention, okay? And that's all I have to say.
May I make a comment, please? Or is it not my time? I don't have a time. I just want to say that we're all out begging for money. Jennifer is working so that she can take her money to pay for all of this. Pay for the bedding, pay for the utilities of the house that she has put up in the back of her yard. These dogs are in her own home in cages. We are fostering out as many as we can. The schools are cooperating. They're taking the little buckets and doing pennies for paws. People are really, really on the bandwagon for this, and they are really trying to help us get the money so that we can keep going with it. So time is really of the essence that we can do this, because we only can beg so much, and Jennifer can only work so many hours, and we're really, really begging y'all to please help.
And while we wait, you know, are we gonna have another 2 years? Because as far as I know, I'm still a taxpayer, and I have several dogs, and I have children, and, you know, I'm very involved in the community, but how many times does this have to happen before something does take place? And as much as we keep pushing, how long is that time frame? What is a realistic time frame are we looking at? That's another question, sorry. I'll sit down.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sheila. And I'll say myself, I have a rescue dog, a little yellow lab, 7 years old, mix. And again, we are working toward that. It's not, I'm sorry it can't happen overnight. I wish it could. We've talked with Miss Jennifer. She knows our heart, our vision to move forward, but we do have the loopholes to jump through to do certain things. So thank you again for your presentations tonight. Moving on to old business. Need to ratify the lease agreement between Hollywood Recreational Department, our district, and Saluda County. So I entertain a motion to ratify the lease agreement between Hollywood Recreation District and Saluda County. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to say I've been contacted by many people in the community, as well as our recreation director, about the need for this field, especially for practice. You know, I know our ultimate goal is to expand our recreational facilities, but for right now, I think this is our best course of action, so we can have a space for our youth to practice baseball.
Any other comments or discussion?
And did you say that this is the agreement with Hollywood Recreation District? I don't know if I heard
Yes,
that.
it is. It is. If there's no further discussion, I'd like to call for a vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
And the chairman is yes also. All right, for new business, I'd like to entertain a motion for first reading on ordinance number 01-18, an ordinance to repeal chapter 12, floods, article 2, flood damage prevention, section 12-31 through section 12-152 of the Code of Ordinance for Saluda County, South Carolina. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
And District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chairman votes yes also. Item number 2, I'd like to entertain a motion for the first reading on ordinance number 02-18, an ordinance adopting flood damage prevention to be codified in chapter 12, Floods, Article 2, Flood Damage Prevention of the Code of Ordinance for Saluda County, South Carolina. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? If not, I'll call for the vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
And the chairman votes yes also. Third item is entertain a motion to adopt the resolution to create a commission pursuant to the Capital Project Sales Tax Action, South Carolina Code 4-10-300, as amended 1976, duties and responsibility of the commission, and to provide for other matters related thereto. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I think this is the beginning of the process to try and get this resolution to result in an ordinance which will take 3 readings, and then to lead to a referendum to go on the November ballot. You're going to be hearing more about it. But tonight, the purpose of this vote is to officially adopt the resolution so that the committee can be put in place.
I'd also like to add, I think we have many quality members that we have that have been recommended to us for this as well.
And actually, I want to mention the members that have been recommended to represent the county on this committee. Mr. Jack Colby Jr., Marvin Guti, and Brinkley Cromley are the 3 that we have recommended for the committee.
And there will be 3 more
And yes, there'll
from
be
another entity.
There'll be 2 from the city of Saluda and 1 from the town of Saluda and 1 from the town of Rich Spring also. Is there any other discussion? If not, at this time, I'll call for the vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I, as chairman, vote yes also. All right, item number 4, workers' compensation resolution. Whereas the County of Saluda, State of South Carolina, presently participates in South Carolina County's Workers' Compensation Trust, and whereas a provision in Part 2 of the 1998-99 budget bill amends South Carolina Code Section 42-7-65 to provide that, effective July 1st, 1998, all volunteer firefighters and members of Volunteer Rescue Squad, EMS, will be covered automatically for workers' compensation unless the governing body of the county elects to opt out of the coverage. And whereas Saluda County is desirous of obtaining such coverage as authorized by this legislation for members of chartered organized volunteer rescue squads and/or county authorized first responders. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of Saluda County as the governing body of the county that members of chartered organized volunteer rescue squads and/or authorized first responders will be covered by Saluda County for workers' compensation when on official duty assisting county departments. Do I have a motion to adopt the workers' compensation resolution?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this?
I just like to say, I think this serves 2 purposes. It provides a safety net for our volunteers because essentially they're volunteering to help us out. And number 2, it also helps shield the county from potential lawsuits. I think it's a win for everybody involved.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
I, as chairman, votes yes also. Item number 5, consideration of a proposal for environmental services to provide environmental plans for the Old Roads and Bridges building. like to entertain a motion to approve the proposal of Davis and Ford Incorporated to provide the environmental plans for the old roads and bridges building located on 722 Batesburg Highway with $4,900 to be funded from the county building reserve account. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? If not, we'll call for the vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
And District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I, as the chairman, vote yes. At this time, I would like to recognize Risk Management Hardy Horn to present the consideration to amend the Saluda County Substance Abuse Policy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of council. The Risk Management Department is charged with protecting the county's assets, including its property, its finances, and most of all, its employees. Part of that job requires us to occasionally review the policies of the county and to make adjustments to these policies to ascertain if the policy benefits the county or if it should be enhanced to better secure the county and its assets. Such is the case with our current substance abuse policy. When it comes to mandatory drug testing for vehicle accidents, while we can all agree that an employee who is involved in a work-related vehicle accident that causes property damage or injury or death should all be investigated and that employee screened for alcohol and or drugs. Due to the potential for compensatory liability on the county, motor vehicle accidents that are as a result of a collision with wildlife doesn't expose the county to compensatory liability unless the employee is injured in the accident. The county policy currently states that all motor vehicle accidents will result in the employee being tested for alcohol and drugs. Financially speaking, I believe that this is a waste of our county resources to subject employees to a drug screen after a wildlife strike. With today's technology being added to our fleet, there are ways to ascertain if a wildlife strike indeed happened, and in some cases we may have video proof of the accident now that we have some technology in vehicles on county cars. Furthermore, the cost associated with removing an employee from work and bringing in another employee to cover for that person exacerbates the cost dramatically for the county. So because of the cost to the taxpayers of the county for the needless drug testing and the associated expense, I am requesting that a modification to our current substance abuse policy states that all employees involved in on-the-job vehicle or accident or equipment accidents must be tested for alcohol or drugs as soon as possible following such accidents. The only exception to this policy is if the vehicle accident involves a collision with wildlife or a domesticated animal, if there is no evidence of driver impairment or injury to the employee and there is no compensatory liability on the county as determined by the county risk manager.
This time I'd like to entertain a motion, if you'll stay put, please. Entertain a motion to amend the Saluda County Substance Abuse Policy as recommended by the risk manager to read, all employees involved in on-the-job vehicle or equipment accidents must be tested for alcohol and drugs as soon as possible following such accidents. The only exception to this policy is if the vehicle accident involves collision with wildlife or a domesticated animal. If there is no evidence of driver impairment or injury to the employee, and there is no compensatory liability as determined by the county risk manager. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a quick question. Who makes the decision about whether an employee goes for a drug test if, say, you are away from work? So say this happens and you can't respond to investigate an incident.
It's supervisor.
Your supervisor does, okay. And I guess, have we had any training or will we have any training on that supervisor to know, be able to detect alcohol drugs, et cetera?
If necessary, we will.
You will, follow up on that report, right? The supervisor.
Oh, to make sure that the supervisor,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
I think this is a good idea. I think, there's no need to have someone drug test if there's obviously no drugs or alcohol involved. So I do think this is a good modification.
Well, the reason I brought it to council is because we've had some occasions where we've had to take a deputy to Newberry Hospital. They had to bring in someone off shift to cover for that deputy while he was being taken over there. And Newberry Hospital is $500 to $100 when you walk in the door. So there's a steep expense on the county that is really unwarranted.
Is there any further discussion, questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
If there is no more discussion, I want to call for a vote at this time. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
I, as chairman, vote yes also. This time, I would like to recognize Assistant Emergency Management Director Jill Warren to present consideration of the State Homeland Security Grant request.
This grant request is for the State Homeland Security Grant Program that is through SLED. And we are asking for funds to purchase the dual band radios for this radio system we've been talking about and other grants you've heard me up here presenting to you. There'll be dual band radios for EMS and emergency management and triple band radios for the sheriff's office. This would allow the agencies to not only communicate with each other, but to communicate outside of our county with state agencies, other county agencies. The dual band is the UHF 7, I'm not sure what all this means, and 800, I know what an 800 system is. And then the triple band would be UHF, VHF, and 800. EMS, we would be looking at 3 of the dual deck single, Josh, you might
Single head.
Single head radios, $15,000. 6 dual deck basic head, $33,000. For the sheriff's office, 2 triple head, triple deck, $12,500. And for EMD, 2 triple head, triple deck, $12,500 for a total of $73,000. And this is a non-matching grant, so we don't have to meet any match requirements on this.
We'll remain there just for a moment, please. I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the Assistant Emergency Management Director to proceed with the State Homeland Security Grant application for dual band radios for EMS at a cost of $48,000 and emergency management at a cost of $12,500, and the triple band radios for the Sheriff's Office at a cost of $12,500 for a total grant request of $73,000 with no matching funds required of the county. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion?
I have a few questions. Did you want to go first? Okay. How often is there a need to communicate with outside agencies? I noticed in some of the documentation that we're getting these radios to communicate with outside agencies. And kind of as a follow-up to that, the same question. If not only how often is it needed, but is there extra added cost to these radios to have that feature?
I'll let y'all 3 address that.
It's kind of a multi-parted answer there. From an emergency management side, we do communicate with other counties somewhat regularly. However, these would be replacing radios that we already have, so there wouldn't be any additional cost. EMS, they have to communicate with hospitals regularly. So regardless of what we're doing, they have to have that capability.
So we can switch these radios on the fly instead of the reprogramming this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Law enforcement, I'll let Chris speak to that, but from a fire perspective, We do have some departments that are interoperate with neighboring counties. You know, Mason works with Greenwood County a good bit. Ridge Spring works with Aiken County a good bit. So kind of the departments on the edge of the county. So, and really, no matter what type of radio system you have, if you look at the counties around us, there are several different radio systems out there. So having multiple band radios really just, it's something that we have to do now in some places. For the counties, you know, for example, Aiken County Fire Service is all on UHF radios. So, you know, there's no added cost there. It's just having those frequencies programmed in. If you're dealing with counties that have the PAL 8 system, you know, there is an added cost whenever you have PAL 8 in a radio. But, you know, we don't have to have those radios everywhere. You know, we just have to have the ability to operate as needed. So.
Okay, I have a question. We're in the middle of this discussion about the E911 communication system, which way we're going to go and all that. And I know that some recommendations have been made and this, that, and the other. Are these radios going to work irrespective of the system we go with?
Any other questions or discussion? All right, if not, thank you very much. We'll call for a vote at this time. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I, as chairman, vote yes. This time I'd like to recognize Councilmember Miller for his Westview Behavioral Health Service Board appointment.
All right, I just like to start by reading a brief statement about my potential appointee. Jane Kaysen is a resident of Saluda County within my district. She has over 20 years teaching experience in the public school system. She has seen many things over her years teaching as it relates to behavioral health. She will bring to the board an educational point of view, and she already has some ideas that she can bring to the board relating to behavioral health. Most importantly, Jane is someone who really cares about the issues relating to behavioral health, and I believe she will serve the county well on this board. So, I would like to make a motion to appoint Jane C. Kaysen of 202 South Wise Road, Saluda, to the Westview Behavioral Health Services Board, with her first term expiring March 13th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is any discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I, as chairman, vote yes also. And since we have nothing to, no personal contractual matters to discuss tonight, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. District 1, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 2, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 3, how do you vote?
Yes.
District 4, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I, as the chairman, vote yes also. We stand adjourned.